Talent is an equally distributable and dispensable commodity. However, the opportunity to apply its application in the workforce isn't always readily available to the masses. Michael Manzano is a career coach, facilitator, and public speaker who is on a mission to level the playing field for newcomers and youth in Alberta who are looking for work. In his day job as Community Liaison Officer for Bow Valley College, he connects Albertans, newcomers to Canada, and youth in the community with the programs, services, and businesses, along with the help they need to find a job. He joined me this week to have a discussion about employment equity and equality for all Canadians. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Yeah, absolutely. So, Michael, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm excited to talk to you all about career exploration this morning. Great to be with you. And thank you so very much for being here.
Oh, Kevin, thanks for having me. You know what? Like we were talking a little bit earlier. I'm usually the one that's on your side. I'm the one doing the interviewing, and it's going to be fun and interesting being on this side, being the one interviewed today.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I'm excited. I'm excited to make you into a YouTube superstar this morning.
As long as it's not TikTok, because I can't do those dances.
No. We will keep the dancing to the professionals, and we'll talk about a lane of information that we both know something about. How about that?
Let's do that. I like it.
So, Michael, I'm curious to kick today's conversation off by asking for your definition of inclusion, diversity, and equity when it comes to career exploration and then ultimately landing a job. How do you define a D&I when it comes to inclusive employment?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple definitions. The one that I like to go with is that having that support physically, mentally, and emotionally at work, but also having kind of like that flexibility in the workplace to make sure that everyone feels that they're safe and that they're involved and that they can maximize their skills and experience and their personality as well, without having that fear of being reprimanded by the higher ups. You can include things like having that confidence to speak up. It could be kind of that team collaboration, also like that learning and development, having those opportunities for people so that they can grow in their work. And of course, I think most of all, it's having that support from managers for people in their work and also in like their personal life as well. People, work takes up pretty much most of your life, right? And you're going to be working for hours and hours throughout the week, but you also have this life that is more important, which is your personal life. And when you don't have your personal life together, then it seeps into your work life. And that's why it's very, very important to have that kind of inclusiveness also for people in their personal life, so that, you can have that efficient workspace. You can have that inviting workspace and that safe workspace so that your team can work optimally and people can, kind of grow in their jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, I'm also curious to ask you about inclusive hiring practices. When we look at hiring people with disabilities or other marginalized groups, what do you think your message would be to an employer who says, I really want to uh, expand or diversify my hiring practices, but I really don't know where to start. What would you tell them? I'm curious.
Oh, that's a good question. So, you know what? Having on the job description, just saying that you're open to all kinds of different abilities, disabilities, races, ethnicities, sexual orientations. Having that little disclosure and disclaimer, even at the bottom of a job description, it's actually very inviting for people to apply to these jobs. Just knowing that this employer is open and welcome, that they don't discriminate on any of these terms, then that's always great. Another thing is, of course, just networking, for people with disabilities, being able to network and being open on the other side with recruiters, having recruiters who are open to networking with these communities and having those opportunities to speak about what the company does and having those policies that are open and inclusive. That's really important, and to have that awareness in the community.
Yeah, Michael, I'm gonna follow up with one follow up, and that is it's important to have the language on the job description for sure. But how do you think employers can really put their money where their mouth is when they incorporate these individuals into their work culture? Because it's one thing to put the disclaimer on the bottom of a job application, but it's also another to implement that. So what would you say to creating an inclusive work culture itself?
Yeah, and they would go back to, having that safe space, right? Allowing people to be themselves and hiring people with disabilities, for example, but also being very accommodating to their needs. There's this one organization that they're a large organization. It's actually a warehouse, but they're very open to working with people with disabilities, and they actually hired one of my clients who was deaf.
Well,
And
congratulations.
yeah, and they were able, even just during the interview, they didn't even realize that this person was coming into the interview deaf or hard of hearing. And you know what? We were able to bring some resources together and get him a translator or interpreter, and being able to help them go through this interview process and be successful. And they were very welcoming. They never judged, they never had any problems. They looked strictly at this client's skills and his experience, which were great. And in the end, he was very successful at his role. So having that kind of mindset and being open and willing and ready to, accommodate people who need that accommodation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, tell me, in the work that you do, I'm also fascinated to ask you about the importance of really emphasizing your intangible skills, both on a resume and in the job interview process as well. How important do you think that is?
Oh, it's really important. Now, I like to say that there's two things that recruiters usually look for. And first one is skills and experience for the job. Do you have those skills and experience for the job? And the second one is mainly, can you fit with the team, right? Can you fit with the team? Now, the first one, the resume, that's really going to show your skills and experience. And that's going to be a little more tough on, showing those intangible skills and traits. But the latter, that's where you can shine, right? That's where you're going to show all those things as much as you can, because it's tough. It's tough to show, are you a funny person? Yes, I can be a funny person, but, how do you show that? Or are you an optimistic person? How do you show those things? And those might be things that the team and the culture really do value. So even if I was to say, for example, that I'm excellent under pressure, I'm wonderful at problem solving, and I leave it at that, and it's done. Really, it's a toss up, and you say, I think I believe you. I don't know if I really believe you actually, or maybe I do, right? But you know, when you shake my hand, or if you see me sweating bullets, then you're like, well, this doesn't really make sense because he says he's good under pressure, but he doesn't look like he's under pressure, or that he can handle this pressure right now. So that's where things like stories and examples are very important in your job interview, right? Because it shows that if you've done it in the past, then you can do it again, right? If you've done it in your past job, then you can do it again in this job. And that's how you're able to show people that you do have those skills and that they are able to rate you and they are able to assess those things more accurately. So for example, if we go back to my under pressure example, let me tell you about this time where a big organization that rhymes with Bamazon did a hiring event with us. And then on the first day, we didn't expect this line to be snaking with, a few hundred people that wanted to see recruiters. So what I did is I stayed calm. I contacted the lead Amazon recruiter. We figured out a plan to move people through easily and organize the team quickly to have this efficient event. And that is my example of when I was able to do it. And the recruiter is going to say, you know what? I believe your example. It shows that you did do it in the past and you can do it again. So going back to your question, it's very important because it shows the recruiter that you do have those skills and it helps them to assess if you would be a good fit with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, Michael, I told you earlier this morning, it's important to fit sort of the job to the person instead of always fitting the person to the job. Absolutely. And though, I always say that creativity breeds collaboration, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure.
And increased productivity for sure. So, and Michael, tell me about your work connecting the great people of Alberta and newcomers to Canada and youth in the community with businesses, programs, and with help they need to get a job. So tell me all about the great work that you do, Bonnie.
Yes, so I'm a career coach. And usually people say like a career coach, what in the world's that? I know what a sports coach is, it's pretty much the same. You're a sports guy, Kevin. And I mean, it's the same as a sports coach. Sports coaches, they might say, let's say, for example, you want to get better at basketball. You want to shoot the ball like Steph Curry or, Kevin Durant or something like that. And they'll say, pop your elbow in a little more, bend your knees, that kind of thing, so that you're able to shoot better. I'm kind of the same thing, but I'm a coach that helps people in finding jobs and in their job search. So I'm going to tell you things like, hey, fix this on your resume. You know what? I can help you with this job interview. This is what you should be doing to get better at networking. So all those things around job searching, I help out with so that you can get better and you can help so that you can secure that job. But, just aside from all those things in career coaching, working one-on-one with clients, I also do things like events. I connect with people in the community. I connect with businesses in the community. And I think I'm kind of like that bridge. So lots of people, they're nervous or they don't know how to approach employers. So I'm kind of that bridge that connects them with those employers. I do that through events. I do that through meetups. We used to have the Product Hunt meetup group in Calgary that I was heading up. I do that through having like speakers, guest speakers. And then also what you were on was the podcast that we have. That's called the Offer Letter Podcast. And it's all about job interviews. And we have a different coach each episode who can talk about one specific job interview question. And I go over it with the coach and with the person, the recruiter, HR professional, and we talk about how you can answer this interview question. So I do lots of things, but it's all around helping people find jobs.
Well, absolutely. Everybody deserves a paycheck, don't they, Michael?
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And based on the work that you do, Michael, I'm curious to ask you because I always say that talent is distributed equally, but opportunities may not be. So I'm curious to ask you, how do you think we eliminate disparities for marginalized groups, for people with disabilities, and other marginalized groups as well?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. And that's the question that people are always asking. But you know what? I've seen in the past that things like mentoring programs, those like in-house job training programs, I see that those have worked in the past. And not many companies implement those things because they do take time. It does take away from productivity at times, but in the long run, it really does help. So having somebody, let's say more of a senior manager or somebody who is more experienced that can mentor somebody who is new to the company, bringing them up, showing them all those things, maybe even like cross training, being able to do more than one role that you were hired for. Having all those things and having somebody get more experience in the company is really important, but having somebody who can help that new person navigate all that stuff in the company, that will help like eliminate those disparities because it creates those opportunities. It helps people bring more understanding in the company, and in the long run, it brings more efficiency. But also, I really think that it would be hiring practices as well. So things like, lots of people, they do hire on like skills and experience. They put a heavy weight on those things. And then also fit. But if you take out things like experience, really saying, well, this person needs like 5 years of experience, then I think that would really help in eliminating these disparities. Because, for example, we've got lots of people who are professionals in their home country. They are very, very, very smart people. But then they come to Canada and they apply for a job, and then they get this comment from lots of recruiters. They say, you don't have any Canadian experience. And then you think, well, that's kind of a catch-22 because, how do you get more experience if you can't get a job, right? But then, like, how do you get a job if you don't have experience? But they've got so much experience back home, but it's not relevant here in Canada for some reason. So eliminating those things that, those barriers and saying, you need to have X amount of years, but, hiring on fit, do you fit with the company? Do you have those skills? Do you have that potential to grow this company, to grow in this company? I think that would really help in, opening up the doors and finding great talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Diversity of perspective goes a long way, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's always tricky too. It's tricky on both sides for the people who are applying, but also for the people who are hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, I know that you also have some experience working with small businesses, buddy. So I'm curious to ask you how you think we can create an environment where small businesses can offer more opportunities for those people looking for work while also remaining profitable. I'm curious to get your insights there.
Yeah, that is tricky. That's like that fine balance again, right? Like you want to have more people, you want to grow, but at the same time, you need the money to do it. So for me, I think that having or fostering that innovation and creativity would go a long way in a small business. encouraging your workers to come up with new ideas, encouraging them to try new things. And how do you do that? It's by one, training, having good training system, but also at the same time, maybe even cross training, as I mentioned before, because they get a better idea of the different things that are going on in the company. And who knows what happens? It might spark an idea, right? Somebody in finance sees something in, let's say, let's say shipping and receiving. And then they say, oh, well, this can even be more efficient, right? It sparks that creativity because there's more understanding, there's more training around these different jobs. And I think that when you do have that understanding and that you are able to grow in that kind of way with more ideas, then that's how you're going to get more, publicity. That's how you're going to be able to get grow, because you're lowering your costs, you're increasing your promotions, and it's going to be more of a long-term, more of a slow play rather than something that's going to be immediate.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, tell me, I'm curious for you, what's the best part of your job, buddy? Why do you love what you do?
Oh man, I love what I do. And I do work with a lot of newcomers to Canada, and I think it would be meeting people from all over the world. When I meet somebody new, then I always ask them, it's like, what would you do? What could I do if I visited your place for only 24 hours? And then you get all these cool answers. And, it's kind of like your own personalized travel itinerary, right? I love traveling. I love learning about different cultures, and, being able to hear about it firsthand. It's wonderful. It's great. Like, I mean, Kevin, have you ever heard of, what is it? Kalapacha. It's this food in Iran. And this is something that I would love to try. It's a goat head.
Oh my.
It's a delicacy, but people in Iran love this stuff. And these are the things that I never would have been able to find, or probably would have had a hard time finding, if I was to Google it myself, right? But, getting it firsthand and hearing it from people, it's wonderful to hear all these different experiences, learning about the different cultures and learning about people's backgrounds and where they're from and their stories. That's, I think, what I love most about my job. But at the same time, I love making that connection. When people find those jobs here in Canada, and, they come here with this dream. They say, you know what? I'm going to Canada because it's going to offer a better life for me. It's going to offer a better life for my family. And then being part of them settling in by helping them find a job, helping them find that income, helping them to settle and create that new life here in Canada. I love seeing that stuff. And I think it's those parts of my job that I love the most.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, I'm also curious to ask you about diversification. I'm always open to having a conversation with employers about the need to diversify. And we talked earlier about the benefits to it, but I want to dig deeper in the sense of, if you had a platform or a 60-second sales pitch to employers about the power of diversification in their workforce, what do you think you would tell them?
Oh, wow. Okay. If I only had 60 seconds. Whew, Kevin, you're coming out with the tough questions today. But you know what? Okay, let's say this. You know what? Diversification is important because you're going to get people with lots of different skills. I mean, we kind of mentioned that before. When you want to be able to get people that have different thinking. You want to get people with different abilities. If you have everyone that has the same thinking and abilities, then you're only going to get so far. But you want people who are going to change your team up and grow, because that's what's going to make teams stronger, right? mean, you're going to have people from other countries. You're going to have people with different abilities, with disabilities, right? But that is going to help you to adjust and to make your team that much better in the long run, whether it's through productivity, whether it's through creativity and innovation, whether it's through just, making more money, whatever it is, then these kinds of things, being able to diversify your workforce and have those different ways of thinking, the different skills and experiences, that's what's going to make your team and your company the best that it is.
And Michael, tell me, I'm curious to also ask you, as we look at the job market, Michael, what do you think it'll be most diversified within the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, if we're talking about the job market in 3 to 5 years, man, am I allowed to say more automation?
You're allowed to say whatever you like, yeah?
So, I mean, I think that there's going to be more automation, more AI. That would be more for the frontline jobs, or let's say called unskilled work. I mean, even if you look at your grocery stores now, look at your Loblaws kind of thing. I mean, you've got to check out your own food most of the time, right? So they're kind of training us for this stage. They're going to have more of that automation, and there's going to be, there's going to be jobs that are cut out, right? These frontline jobs are going to be cut out because robots are going to be doing it. But if you also think about it, there's going to be more jobs that haven't even been thought about yet or even created yet. So there's going to be that balance. So if you're worried that you're going to lose your job because you have this frontline position, then you know what? There's lots of opportunities to skill up. Lots of opportunities, at least here in Alberta, and I'm sure out there in Ontario as well. Lots of opportunities to skill up because governments are seeing this trend of more automation, and it's tapping into those resources and finding those resources that you can grow your skills. I mean, like my kid, my son's 9 years old, and he knows way more coding than me. And things like that, this next generation is going to have all these different skill sets that, yours and my generation don't have, Kevin, and they're going to do it much better. So, you know what, if you're a little younger, then make sure you have those coding skills, those automation skills, because that's what's going to be happening in the future.
Well, advancement takes on all different types of forms, doesn't it?
You know what I like to say too is that, there's going to be a time probably that robots are going to take over, but it's a good thing that Will Smith is still alive, because you know what? He can help us out and take over those robots, as we've seen in his past movie, I, Robot.
Of course. And Michael, my final question for you this morning is, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how you want your personal or professional legacy to be defined.
Oh, wow, Kevin. Wow. Okay. Yeah, you know what? It's making the world a little bit better, right? It's always doing the best that I can to, I guess it's making a difference in the world, because of my faith in Jesus, my family, and my friends, and just changing the world to make it better. That's what I want to be known for.
Fantastic. And very quickly, Michael, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that, Bunny?
Yeah, you can do that on LinkedIn. My name is Michael Manzano. I'm here in Calgary. And also about our podcast that we kind of mentioned. It's called the Offer Letter Podcast, all about job interview questions and how to answer them. We're finishing up season 1. Kevin, you were on the show just this morning. We're going to be releasing season 2, and it's going to be a little different because we're going to release all the episodes for season 2 all at once, just so that's the best way to consume it. Just binge it before your interview that you might have scheduled. But it's great because I talk with lots of different career coaches, different HR recruiters, and HR professionals, so that you can get the best information, the best advice on how to answer these job interview questions. So it's called the Offer Letter Podcast. So you can download that on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can even just Google it and you'll find it online.
Well, fantastic, Michael. I really want to thank you for spending part of your morning with me to talk about career exploration and moving diversity, equity, and inclusion forward. Your time, energy, and efforts and work in the space and on my behalf are most appreciated, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this morning, Bonnie. It's most appreciated.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me on here. It's always great to have a conversation with you.